Next, let's have a look at actually doing a live gig, the entire process, right from the start where, we're packing our drums into our cases at home, arriving at the gig and assessing setup space, not only for the entire band, but for, just yourself individually, how much of that total space you can allocate to just the drums, setting up the drums, miking up the drums. I'm going to show you how to set up a basic PA system, which is a really useful thing to know how to do in case you're ever, left with that task or something that you might choose to do if you own a PA. How to set up foldback mixers, how to set up backing tracks, and just everything that's involved in doing a gig. Let's start out with the absolute basics. Let's look at putting our drums into cases. This is pretty basic stuff, but there's a few things that I'm going to show you here that hopefully will ensure that you can further protect your drums and kind of reduce the potential damage that can happen to drums when you're traveling, whether that's just in your car going to a gig, and particularly I'm going to show you a few things here that can help out if you're on the road and you're touring, or if you might be flying and whatnot, because your drums can get pretty knocked around when you do spend a lot of time on the road. First of all, the most basic thing that I see people who aren't drummers get wrong is just the basic clip on a hard case like this. I'm just going to show you how to do this. You probably already know how to do it, but for anyone who gets this wrong and then wonders why they can't get their case open, you've got this long part here and the short part here with the clip on it. It goes through those two pieces there, and then it goes back on itself like this. You pull that tight, and then it goes through the final bit at the end there just to make it all neat and tidy. Okay, that's how you do a basic case clip. That's how you tie up the cases there. What a lot of people do, which kind of creates a bit of a headache trying to get the clip back open, is they'll put it all the way through the first two, yes, but then they'll also put it through there to start with, and then try and fold it back on itself, which is not so bad, but the problem is when you try and pull it open, it gets stuck there, okay? And if you pull too hard, it'll kind of get wedged and you won't be able to ever move it again. So if you end up in that scenario where it's kind of jammed like that, just feed it through again, okay? So you've got a bit of length there. And then once you've got some length, feed it back on itself a little bit like that, get it out of that position, and then start again. So once again, it goes through those two bits there. You've got that individual separation there. Goes through those two, back on itself, like that. Pull that tight. And then to tidy it up so that you don't have this flapping around, just put it back on itself here. So that's how you do the clip. So this is a basic hard case. I generally use hard cases more if I'm on the road for an extended period of time, particularly if I'm not with my drums and I can't see that, in my own car that, everything's not getting knocked around. Definitely use hard cases if you're flying. But another option is to use soft cases, which I probably use more if I'm just playing around town just because they're lighter. That's really the only reason. So with a soft case, same kind of idea. You can see I always take a spare snare skin. They just zip up rather than using the clips. And as I said, I really only use these just because they're lighter. And they don't knock your car around as much because they don't have, hard, sharp edges. So let's just assume that you're going to go with basic hard cases. And if you're only going to get one set of cases, I probably recommend that you do get hard cases in case you do find yourself touring around and whatnot. Now, some hard cases these days do come pre-built with extra protection and padding inside. These are just basic hard cases that didn't come with that, so I actually added my own. What I did was I got a couple of different thicknesses of foam. You can see here just this blue foam. And for the lid and the base of the case, which I'll show you in a second, I basically used 1-inch foam, and just because the drum is probably going to move around a little bit in the case, I don't want the rims and whatnot getting knocked around against this hard plastic, because there'll always be a little bit of movement in the cases as well. So I know that if I have this in the lid and in the bottom, that these rims, if they do move around, they're only going to be touching that and they're not going to be knocking against the actual hard material. So that's what's going on there in the lid. This is a twin tom case for my 10 and 12-inch tom. I've got this 2-inch thick foam here, and that actually wraps around the 10-inch, which I'll show you in a second, so that it doesn't move around as much as it would. Here you've got the divider or the separator, which goes between the two toms, and once again in in the base of the case, in the bottom of the case, you can see here it's got the same foam. Okay, so I'm just trying to do everything that I can to protect my drums so that they're not knocking around on hard plastic or knocking around on each other. Okay, so that's how that works. Basically, I put my 12-inch in first, and I'll put where the mount is, I'll put that towards the corner. Okay, I don't want to put it in like that because it'll get caught or knock around. There's a little bit of space in the corner, so I'll put it down like that. And just, I know this is kind of obvious, but just as you are putting your drums into your cases or getting them out, just be really careful that they're not scraping on the case as it gets in and out. You know, things like that you might not think at the time make a lot of difference. Eventually, it's just basic wear and tear on your gear, and eventually you're going to have to replace things. So just be really gentle with your gear as you're putting it in or taking it out of the case. So we've got the first tom in there in this twin tom case. Next comes the divider. Then I'll put this foam in, and once again I'll angle it towards the corner, the separation towards the corner, so that when I put the 10-inch tom in, there's the space for this mount to go in there as with the 12. So that goes in like this. And you can see then that's nice and snug in there. And yes, there's still going to be a little bit of movement. There's like a centimetre or two worth of movement in there still, but at least it's not knocking around against the hard plastic. And with the foam in the lid, if it does move up and down, which it might, you can't guarantee that it's not going to, at least once again I know that it's going to be hitting foam, which is soft, rather than the case, which is hard.